This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 651 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit. On tonight's show, we will be joined by Kendra Hansis, a dressage horse breeder from New Jersey. After that, we're going to discuss education and development of riders with Angela Ariatti. Karen Isberg comes back onto the show to have a great chat. Reese and I will bring you a wonderful tip.
This is Reese Stanfield from Loxahatchee, Florida.
And this is Philip Park, still in Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Oh, Phil, I wish you were down here with me. It would be a lot of fun.
We could have partied for your birthday, you know?
I know. Yes, it was my birthday yesterday. It was fun to celebrate in the sun and with some friends. It was COVID friendly, but it was fun. It was fun. We had a good time, and it was nice to get out a little bit. Yes, it was my birthday, but it's a busy week here. It is Global Week 1, so it's the first week of CDIs, which is crazy. And I am actually horse showing on Saturday, so kind of getting back in the swing of things, which is crazy. It's fun.
Oh, wow. So is it big entries for this first show? Do you know what's going on?
I actually don't know.
Kind of isolated.
Yeah, I'm kind of isolated. I'm going to head over tomorrow and pick up my kind of prepare, like we always talk about, because it is, well, I've shared it on the show before. Like, I definitely have show anxiety and show nerves. So one of the things that I found for me, the more organized I can be, for example, I'm able to go and pick up my number. And so that when we get to Saturday morning, when I horse show, I'm already checked in. I will make sure my trailer's hooked up on Friday night. So if there's any problems, I can deal with that. Make sure my shed belly's ready to go. I have my clothes out. I'll take care of all of that tomorrow, which is Friday. We're recording on Thursday night. So I'll take care of that all tomorrow so that, and I'll, it's a school night. So I try not to go out and party anymore. Maybe when I was younger, I didn't do that, but now that I'm more mature, I will stay home, kind of a school night, just kind of a quiet evening here at the house with my horses and my dog, and watch Netflix and just kind of relax a little bit. Run through my tests. We did a run through today, which was great. Bingo hasn't done a Grand Prix since August. So it's been a little time. So it's fun to sort of kind of get ready to get back out there. So I'm looking forward to it, but it is for me always a little bit of anxiety. So I have my routine and what I do. And I have weird things like I don't eat fish the night before I compete. I did that once. It didn't go well. So I just have weird things, right?
Over the years, you learn a few tips about your own digestive system for sure.
No salmon the night before. You think, I'm eating healthy. And I think I got a bad piece once. So I'm really picky. I eat something fairly bland. And also, again, we've talked about that with a bunch of people. It is important that you do eat before the horse show. So I actually have some protein shakes that I don't like eating them, but I can get them down. I'm like, I don't like it, but it is something because
the protein bars, they're pretty.
Yeah, the bars, they're not bad.
They've been developed better, and so
basically find something that you have to find something that you like to eat, and that because you do have to eat, you can't go in there. So many people will do that. They'll be nervous before the horse show or their stomach hurts, and you're like, well, what did you have for breakfast? They're like, 5 cups of coffee. Like, well, that'll do it. That'll do it. So
good tip.
Usually
good tip. First show is a little bit of a smaller one anyways, but
Mm-hmm. So it'll be good.
I didn't even look at the entries.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. So we're getting the party started down here, and I'm looking forward to getting out there. So we have a great show for everybody. We're going to get into it because it's a great, but a little on the longer side. So we're going to stop at a commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products and get back with some great content for you.
She had waited all her life for this moment, dreaming about it since she was 10 years old. The trailer ramp touched the ground. He whinnied as she backed him out, swinging his head around to get a good look at his new home. His coat gleamed in the sun. Her love had arrived. She was breathless. He was beautiful. She could hardly wait to tack him up and start off on what she was sure would be the best times of her life. This love story is brought to you by Contribute, providing essential omega-3 fatty acids that help maintain low inflammation levels throughout your horse's body. The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Call 859-873-2974 or visit kppusa.com to order today.
Well, tonight we're very excited to have Kendra Hansis of Running Water Warm Bloods. She is a breeder and she bred lots of famous horses, including Fortunato. Kendra, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We are thrilled to have you, and we're glad because we don't give breeders enough love on the show, and for just because we have lots to talk about. But we're really excited to have you. So we wanted to start the interview with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your horses.
Okay, well, I started breeding because I couldn't afford a dressage horse like I wanted, wished for, and so I thought, well, I'll just breed one, and that will be my new dressage horse. And I tell you, I bred one. This was 2000 into 2001, and it was really quickly an addiction that I could not stop. So I bred the one and learned so much and got really into it really quickly. And it's a passion, and it's a really fantastic part of horse ownership and the horse experience, I guess. Every once in a while I see people say, oh, don't breed a horse, buy it. And I'm like, why would you stop anyone from having that fantastic experience of breeding a horse and bringing it into the world and raising it? Because to me, it's really wonderful. So I don't discourage anyone from trying their hand at breeding.
Yeah. So, a lot of people know that I work for a small breeder, a small operation. But I think a lot of people get that start the way that you did, is to say, I really want a fantastic horse, and maybe I have a great mare that I have, and then I go ahead and breed it. But maybe something, an experience that you can relate with is that it's, in the end, I don't think that, there's money to be saved there. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Well, for me, it's more like if you breed your own, you're spending the same amount of money over time instead of all at once. So for me, it was this way or no way. Ironically, of course, that first foal was not what I had hoped she would be, and, became a hunter, and it, wasn't the dressage horse of my dreams. But then I went on and I started to collect broodmares. And I think one of the things I've done over time is to really improve my broodmare herd as I went. So, yeah, I don't think you save a lot of money by breeding your own, but what you learn in exchange is really, really pretty amazing. Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love, but it's, I don't know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I can't imagine these people who are like, you hear all the time people who say, oh, I'm going to retire from breeding. And they just don't, because they can't. Cause you just can't stop. I don't know.
Well, the babies are so cute. But I think, I also did some breeding, and I did find out after 3 horses I produced, it wasn't necessarily for me, because that wasn't my passion. But I will tell you, it has been so fun to follow my horses and what they're doing. And the 2 mares that I actually sold, the mares, I kept the gelding, who I still have, but I'll have him forever. But the mares have been very, very successful. And it's so fun as a breeder to watch and to be in the stands. One of them actually won I can't remember. It was a national championship in Kentucky. And that was so fun. I got to see her get her ribbon and hear that I bred her. And then everyone's like, who else do you have? I was like, oh, that was my last one. So I can see
it's
addicting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's incredibly gratifying too to see when they go out and they do well. I think it's wonderful, and
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly has its low moments and difficult times.
Yeah, this spring we actually we had a foal who through an accident actually died, and it's very, very sad. It's like anything. If it's got its highs and its lows, and that was certainly a low, and that's just part of the experience, I suppose.
Yeah, this year I think I had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I lost a mare and foal to a dystocia. The mare was a recent mare, and the foal was the first foal I had bred, where I bred both parents, and it was horrible. And then 2-3 months later, I'm in the Dixon Oval winning Grand Champion of Devon. And it was like,
Yeah.
Right. There you go. That's breeding. Exactly. I mean, that's pretty great to be in Grand Champion at Devon. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I did not ever think someone like me could win that. I'm a middle-aged lady trying her best, is what I really am. So,
I hear you, sister.
I don't have any staff. I don't have any, no nothing. And it's all me. And, I do this in the backyard of my family home. And this is,
that's great. That's great.
I could not believe
bless
that.
you. Yeah.
Yes,
bless you. Because without breeders and this passion project, we aren't, there aren't going to be any horses to ride. And even in Germany, there's only a few really big breeders, and then the rest are, they kind of breed on the side. They have a farm, and they, so I know that,
1 or 2 a year.
Yeah, going around, and if you're looking for a young horse in Germany, even you've got to drive around like to all these little farms, and they've got horses in the back. When I lived in Holland, it's the same experience. Somebody might have a dairy operation, and then they're breeding 3 mares a year or less. So it is a passion project. Kendra, I was just going to ask you, do you stick to a certain breed? Like, are you a KWPN breeder or Hanoverian breeder? What's your lines?
I have a combination of lines, and I'd say I'm about half GOV, Oldenburg, and half Dutch at the moment. And I do like to mix back and forth between them. I don't say, every horse has to be of a certain registry. I look at the horse itself, and I like to kind of mix and match a little bit. But I've been quite involved with the GOV registry. I went on tour with them in Canada, got to go to all kinds of inspections in Canada in 2019, which was, it's just wonderful because I got to meet all these breeders that I had known on Facebook for, in some cases decades, which was really great, to go and see them.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was really wonderful.
I would say the breeders community is pretty strong, isn't it? I mean, because it is, it seems like riders, you have your riders, but the breeders, you kind of have to stick together because there is a lot of, especially this time of year, right? Now is time to pick stallions. And so can you talk to us a little bit about sort of your January project and what you're working on?
It's so funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine, actually one of the people I met in Canada. And I said, I don't know who I'm using this year at all. And she said, but you seem like you always have it all planned. I'm like, smoke and mirrors, my friend.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's sometimes I do have them planned out for a long time, and then sometimes I'm just not sure, and it's a first time mare, and I want to see how it produces, and I make my decision when the foal hits the ground. And then there are others where I just want to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Tuna, for example, has 2 full brothers. That was a no-brainer. I wanted the filly desperately, and the mare took 5 colts to give me. Number 6 was a filly. So,
wow.
I waited 6 years for this filly that I got this year, finally. But yeah, so it's a matter of, and I always tell people this who are trying to decide on a stallion for their mare, like, no one knows your mare better than you do. So don't think that anyone else who calls themselves an expert can come in and say, well, you should breed your mare to this horse, and that's the end of it. You know, trust yourself. And that's something that I had to learn. You know, it took a long time to kind of say to myself, you know, I really trust myself in my breeding decisions. But what I tell people to do is, you know, even if it's your first foal you're breeding or your 20th foal you're breeding, come up, you know, ask for advice. That's fine. And come up with a list of, you know, 3 or 4 stallions that you really like. But then trust your gut and go with that, because no one knows your mare more than you do. And you have to live with the foal. You have to, you know, support it, pay for it, feed it, everything. So trust yourself. When I started to really trust myself, that's when I feel like my horses got that much better.
So Kendra, I know that a lot of breeders have, you know, kind of a basic philosophy of breeding that they try to kind of stick to and when they're making a plan for their breeding. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about yours and, you know, how you make decisions or what's going on in your decision making. Okay.
I was told by many breeders when I started, this is like the first decade of breeding for me. I was told during that time that, you know, the American market is adult amateurs and you need to breed what adult amateurs ride. And it has to be very easygoing and it can't be too big a mover. And this is what people need here in this country. And so that's what I did for about a decade. I don't disagree with that. But what happened for me was I started to sort of hang out with and be fascinated by the horses that friends of mine were riding. And these are people who are pros or they're amateurs who ride like pros. And they're, you know, we have kind of, I live in Hunterdon County, New Jersey, and it's a very interesting dressage community here. And so I started to breed more for that type of person. And I decided I want to breed for pros and adults or for amateurs who are really ambitious. And so that's kind of my viewpoint. And I was told, some breeders told me, well, you can't do that in America. That's not going to work. You're not going to sell anything. You're not going to, you know, that's just such a niche market that you're not going to be successful. And I said, okay, but, you know, I'm doing all of this myself and I've decided that this is what I want to do. And they're like, well, good luck. You're going to be out of business kind of thing. And so, you know, I just thought, well, maybe I will be. We'll see, you know.
Yeah. Yes,
trust
exactly.
your gut.
Trust your gut.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's kind of my philosophy. And so I did that. I changed my breeding focus in about 2014. And since then, you know, it's been really successful for me. It's been good. It's not for everyone. It's not what everybody wants to do or should do. And I get that. But it's been good for me. I sell only foals. Sometimes I sell in utero. And my foals are sold by the time they're 3 or 4 weeks old. Sometimes they're sold by the time they're 3 or 4 hours old. And, you know, so far it's been good. I get calls from people who are, you know, I'm like, I can't believe you just called me, famous people. And they're like, what do you have? And I said, well, I have to say to them, I don't have anything because they're not born yet.
Yeah.
And when they are born, they're going to be sold, you know?
Yes.
So it kind of goes like that. And I guess what I do tell them is try to get a pipeline going, because a lot of people call me looking for 2 and 3 and 4 year olds, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's been sold for years by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
well,
I
I mean,
think
there's lots of people that, you know, there's lots of people like myself, you know, who are pros, but who don't have big backers and, you know, and like, I need to do it on a budget, right? So then we do go out and just, you know, look, I bought a foal last year, you know, was it what year are we in?
Yeah.
I bought a foal in the fall of 2020. That's my pandemic.
I was like,
foal.
isn't she almost, yeah, she's a year or 2. I don't know.
Yeah. She's a year and a half. But yeah, so I mean, if there's some small breeders that are selling to, I mean, it is a niche market, right? Talented horses or really good bloodlines and good movement and all of that to pros. But I think there is a market out there for that, and if like you said, you've got to love what you produce first and foremost and believe in what you produce. So trust your gut and just go with it. And there are buyers out there, right? So, I mean, good for you and congratulations. Yeah.
It really matters to me who ends up with these foals. I want to know that they're if they do have ambition. And, I'll work with people on getting them a foal if they have that kind of ambition, if they have the track record to train up a foal or to show a horse, up the level.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
That's amazing. So just because I think the horse market is so crazy. I think it's just an interesting discussion on what is the typical cost for foals right now? Because just like everything, the cost of horses it's expensive now, even for a foal. So a good quality, nicely bred foal, what is sort of the average market value right now? I know it's a tough question, but give or take.
Average, I would say 15 to 20 for an average foal, a foal with good prospects.
Because it used to be 10, right? The price has gone up, and that's why I wanted to bring that up. The price, because it costs more to produce them, it costs more for the veterinary, everything is costing more. So I think that's really important for people to sort of know, like, even if you want a foal, you still need to have a decent amount of money to go. I mean, I think that's a decent amount of money. That's a lot of money. So you got to be ready for that. Is kind of where I'm going with that.
Yeah. It did used to be that, they were 8,000 to 10,000, and that was, a good price for a foal, but it has gone up quite a bit. The cost of everything, just, everything's gone up. And if you want something that's by a European stallion, the frozen semen doses are getting smaller, more expensive. So that's an issue as well. I do save some money because I have my own ultrasound machine and I do my own work. So that helps. I foal out my own horses. I don't send them places. I do the whole deal. And that does kind of help out. But
I love it.
They're expensive.
Mm-hmm. And Kendra, I have just another kind of question for you. For people that are like, oh, I really want to get interested in breeding, what are some good resources that you can recommend people to just either start connecting with breeders, or how do you even get started with that?
Oh, I always like to talk to people on the phone.
Great.
First thing I'll say, well, call me, I can help you out. But also study, do the work. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to know what you're looking at. Know the bloodlines. Go on Horse Telex, for instance. You can learn a lot there. The Horse Magazine has this whole history of, stories about different stallions, articles about different stallions and different bloodlines. And that's really helpful. There are a lot of veterinary texts, and Colorado State University has a lot of stuff online about, breeding and everything to do with caring for foals and brood mares and stallions. And there really are lots of resources online.
Yeah.
And lots of people who are willing to help and to offer, experience and advice.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
like you said, you can reach out to the president of the Canadian Hanoverian Society or the North American Oldenburg Association or the North American KWPN. I mean, those people love to talk about breeding. They'll give you they'll cut your ear off. So find other people that are passionate about it, and join a club and get into it, because it's a wonderful, there's wonderful groups that really will, they see it as a collaborative effort.
Yeah,
absolutely. I also believe strongly in talking to riders. I think that sometimes people think breeding and riding are kind of mutually exclusive activities. And for me, it's very much, I love talking to my rider friends and saying, well, what did you think of this horse? What kind of feeling did you get from that one? Why did you sell that one? Why did you keep that one? All of these things are really useful. And you'll see, you talk to enough riders and the commonalities among, between different lines are, it gets really clear.
Yeah.
What they like, what they don't like. And I'm never one to say, oh, how dare you say that's not a good bloodline? Everyone has their things they like and their things they don't like. So
right. No, and I think that's
so.
Yeah, I think that's so real, and a good thing to think about, because it is so true that a lot of people, that riders have specific things, and it's all a team effort, right? At the end of the day, we want to be grand champion at Devon, right? And to get there, you have to do all the steps, and somebody's going to have to ride that horse. So I love it. Well, Kendra, we could talk to you all night, but I wanted to see if you could tell our listeners how they can find you online if they have any questions.
Oh, well, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I also have a website, runningwaterwarmbloods.net.
Fantastic.
So you can find me there.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
It's been so nice talking to you guys.
We've enjoyed having you as well.
The Horsemanship Radio podcast is dedicated to the advancement of great horsemanship throughout the world. Monty Roberts often stops by to present on this podcast, hosted by his daughter and legacy strategist, Debbie Roberts-Laux. The show includes segments, tips, and interviews exploring effective training centered on the well-being of the horse. This multiple award-winning podcast has 1.6 million downloads to date. HorsemanshipRadio.com, sponsored by Hands On Gloves and Monty Roberts University.
Well, tonight I am so excited to have Angela Ariatti of Ariatti Equestrian Services in Simpsonville, Kentucky on. Angela, welcome back.
Thanks, Reese and Phil. I'm excited to be back. Happy New
Year. We love having you on because you are really, truly our resident kiddo expert. You do all types of riders, but in my opinion, you do an unbelievable job with developing kid riders. You and I have been working together. I don't even know how long now, but I've seen you develop. Yeah. Well, I'm like, we're not going to talk about how long, but seeing how you develop young riders to be incredibly good horse people. I really, truly don't know anyone that does as good of a job, and you get them when they're like 4. And I don't even know what to do with them. So that we wanted to have a little discussion about that and sort of, kind of as you're coming into programs, because right now so many kids are coming into horses, which is amazing. But your program specifically, not only the kids learn riding, but they learn horse husbandry and how to take care of their horses. So we wanted to have that discussion a little bit about what should you be learning sort of in your first year of coming into being a horseman or woman, and how you teach that. So we'll hand it your way.
We are actually, my facility is a United States Pony Club Center. I grew up in the United States Pony Club standards, which I feel like for everybody should really look that up and realize it's an international organization. So I very much have honed in on their standards and that understanding. So the kids that come in, it's very important that when they're young, that we make it into a game. So just like when you go to kindergarten, there are boundaries and standards, there's nap time and coloring time, but it's all, everything you do is a game. So the first year, we're trying to make everything we do as a game, and we try to encourage them to be friends with their horse. So this is your friend, and would you treat your friend like this, or would you not treat your friend like this? as well as giving them certain boundaries to understand position. So in the first year, position is really important because, as we know, as we start to ride and develop our relationship with our horse, one of the ways that we communicate with our horse is the biggest way, in my opinion, is our position. So making a body statement and understanding what that position should be in. It should be in balance, and it should be able to follow the horse in what we want the horse to do. And then as well as we're making it fun. So if you had a 4-year-old and you brought it to me, you would notice that in the beginning, I'm working a lot on position and I say goofy things like we ride on the lunge line, first of all, in the beginning, and 4-year-olds have great imagination and will imagine that we're putting our hands out to try to catch the birds in the arena that are flying to your hand. So we're going to put our hand out. We're going to really concentrate so that little sparrow in the barn will come and stand on my hand. And then I'll start moving their hands around and say, let the bird fly or catch the bird again. And we'll do things like that. So we use their imagination in the beginning. They love to use their imagination. And then in the middle of the lesson or the end of the lesson, then I would have a game to play. So we do lots of obstacle courses. We incorporate the horsemanship into the games. One of our favorite games, besides the rock game, which I think I've told Phil about the rock game before.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that discussion. Yeah.
So the rock game is, there's rocks in the ring, and we want to pick them up. We don't want rocks in the ring, so we put them on the rail, and then we have them go and find the rocks
with the horses.
And then
with the on foot. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I was like, wait, I'm confused. Okay. Cool. You go with the horses and find the rocks
in the arena, and I pick up 5 rocks. Okay, there shouldn't be rocks in the arena, so this is a way for me to clean the arena.
I think it's genius. I'm thinking, geez, yes.
I'm like kind of taking care of the barn at the same time.
I love it.
So we pick up the rocks, and then they stand in the middle of the circle. They close their eyes, and I hide the rocks or on the rail or on something on the standards, something high enough that they can reach it, and they have to figure out how to get their ponies parallel to the rock so they can pick it up. At 4 years old, at 4 years old, you don't have a lot of spatial awareness. So you'll walk your pony straight to the rock with his nose on the rock. And then you'll realize you can't pick up the rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So now they're trying to solve the problem, right? They've got to figure out how to maneuver the horse. And then there is my opportunity to teach turn on the forehand.
Oh, see, you're just so good. You get rocks picked up of your ring and you're teaching turn on the forehand. You're my hero. What? That's great.
Oh, right? So
I think what's great is that you're teaching the basics, you're keeping it fun, but you're also providing a really structured, lesson for the kids. I think partially, for non-horsey parents and for horsey parents too, you can take your child to a place to learn a lesson. And, what should you be looking for? Well, you're looking for some sort of certification, whether it's through the Pony Club, which, I kind of came up in that program and I think it's awesome and wonderful. But in Canada, we have certifications too for, people for teaching, but also, a structured program for, learning the things. We have 8 rider levels, which, is partially, your competence in riding, but also your knowledge of horses and horse diet and how to care for a horse and how, because I think that part of it is just really, really, really so important that it's not just, a horse is not a machine or a bicycle or a piece of equipment that you just use and you put away. And that's what I think, teaches kids a lot of, life lessons or, teaches them compassion and care for an animal, which, I think that's really
Before
important.
you come to us for the first lesson, you would get a list of what's expected of you. And one of the things that's expected is the understanding that you should arrive 15 to 20 minutes before, and that you should expect to leave, that you're going to be there 15 or 20 minutes after your lesson at least. And that we are teaching the whole horse and the whole horsemanship. So the first lesson, you don't just come and your horse is tucked up like a lot of our saddlebred friends. You come and we say, okay, you're going to develop a relationship with this horse. Let me show you how to communicate on the ground through grooming, and then how you put the tack on and all that. So by the time my expectations are always within the age, understanding what the age is of the kid. I do believe that a 6-year-old can lift a saddle onto a pony's back. They might need a stool, but so does my 70-year-old student. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Accommodations.
A lot of people think because they're little, they can't lift it up or whatever. And the biggest expectation with 6-year-olds or 5-year-olds or 4-year-olds, they definitely do have some physical limitations, but they're not limited on problem solving. You've got to start developing that early. So the way that I do that in the beginning is I always say, I want you to figure out, and we did this with Lisa's niece.
Yes.
I want you to solve the problem. The problem is you don't have your saddle you need to get the saddle on the horse and you can't reach its back. So now how are we going to solve that problem? Like, what are you going to do? Mom and dad aren't here. You want to ride your horse. What are you going to do? And they'll just kind of look at you for a while, and you kind of look at them for a while. And then I kind of glance over at the bucket or I glance at the mounting block. Like, hint, then they start doing it. But what happens a lot of times is adults get impatient or they feel like they need to help them. So they do it and they're missing the opportunity to create confidence, which is a big thing in riding. And it's a big thing in life of I could solve this problem if I was alone. I could solve this problem. And we look for those. We sometimes set situations up so they have to solve the problem.
Right.
I get some kids, they will not make a move. They have no confidence. And these are my 10 or 11-year-old kids because they have not started with me. They've come from another program and they'll say, well, Miss Angela, they can't get the halter on, or they get the halter on, but they're confused if they should use the cross tie or tie their horse up in the stall. So they'll just stand there. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, I don't know. Should I use the cross tie or should I tie him in the stall? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? I mean,
yeah.
We have a conversation about it. Or, the horse isn't lifting up his left front leg. Well, what are you going to do about it? How are we going to do that? How are we going to solve that? Are we going to kick the horse until he picks up his leg? Are we going to give him a treat? I have an adult. She loves to give the horse a treat. And I told her, I said, you realize the relationship you have right now with your horse is you are a Pens dispenser. You're just a food dispenser.
Yeah. You're like, this is great.
Different relationship with your horse than he looks at you as if you're just going to release the food, So
yeah, but I mean, it's evident in kids, but it is evident in adults as well. The situations are sometimes a bit more complex, but you have lots of people who have what I call paralysis by analysis. So they maybe don't understand the problem on the horseback, or what they think the horse should do. They've analyzed, and then they're reluctant to move forward with a solution. And, you see this particularly with people who take a lesson every couple of weeks and, whatever your situation is. But, and then I walk in the arena and says, oh, how's it going? What happened over the last couple of weeks? And then you get the report back that, well, I think he's doing this. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably what he's doing. But I don't know what to do about it.
Right.
And then this got, the question for me is, what if you tried? Well, nothing.
Yes.
Nothing,
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
I didn't know what the right thing to do was. Well,
Yes.
I mean, as long as you're safe and as long as, all the caveats, like, why don't you try this? And if it doesn't work, the next day you come out, you try something else, or you
group are you
reanalyze
finding that
your
in?
problem after after trying something, and then give something else a go. I think confidence within kids and confidence within people learning is just, don't be afraid to fail.
Right.
Right. Totally. We're totally big on that. So I find that happens a lot when a child in their developmental preteen years and teen years are not given the opportunity to make a mistake or are shamed for their mistake. So when they're shamed for their mistake, they will freeze and they won't do anything, or they will overdo. Like they'll do the same mistake like over and over and over again, but I'm going to do it harder. Like I tell people, like I tell the kids, I'm like, you ever make a puzzle? And they're like, yeah. I go, do you ever try to fit a puzzle piece into a place it can't go? Like a circle into a triangle? And if you don't fit the circle into a triangle, you pick up the hammer and try to hammer the circle into the triangle. But that didn't really work.
Right.
Yeah.
So taking them through the thinking process. And that is where you go from the first year in riding, right, is fun, and we're learning our position, and we're on an aged horse or a schooled horse that you kind of make some mistakes, and he's like, okay. But I still bring their attention to, okay, how did your horse perform differently, even if it's a schooled horse? By the end of that first year, we're discussing, what behavior is your horse showing back at you, right? Then the next year, or we'll call it the next year, or in Pony Club, we call it the C standard. This is where independence comes from. And C's should be in their preteens and their teen years. That's where the C should be. That's the age group the C should be. We're learning independence. We're learning independence. We're going to make mistakes. We'll probably have a car accident. And we don't want to have a car accident and then be shamed that we can never drive again. We want to be a little more aware, and we're going to have times when we're going to be really confident and do something silly, like attempt the counter-canter unbalanced, which is fun. for teenagers, but I'm cantering on the wrong lead and I made it around the turn. It's a good time. And then they'll be humbled by the horse, right? And then but from those, whatever happens, good or bad, we're gonna, like you said, Phil, analyze it, discuss it. How did it work? How did it not work? And by the time the kids get to that, in my opinion, I have an 11-year-old right now that has not been in my program since she was not started in my program. And this is a typical 11-year-old lesson. Hey, is the inside of your horse's neck a little shorter than the outside of your horse's neck? No. Okay. Are you going to do anything about that? Oh, do you want me to do something about that? Yeah, I think it's your responsibility to make sure that your horse is flat. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, now realize we're still having the conversation, Phil. We're trotting a 20-meter circle. We're having this conversation. Imagine the horse is headed straight in the air, completely counterflex. And you're like, okay, so your horse is supposed to be flexed to the inside? Yes. And should we ask the horse to flex to the inside? Probably yes. Do you know how to do that? Yeah. Can you tell me? You may tell me. And I said, so why aren't you doing it?
Oh, you're a saint.
Yeah.
You're a saint.
She is a saint.
That would not be the same conversation that I would be having, but
yeah.
Well, but you have to. You have to take them through the steps.
This is why Angela does kids, Phil, and we don't.
Yeah, I don't do teens either.
11. I mean, because of course I want to say, what the hell are you doing? If you know all that, why are you doing something? Why are you doing nothing? Well, you're doing nothing because you're 11 and your mom is still picking up behind you.
Yeah.
You're doing that because nobody's let you make a mistake and you're scared to do it because if you do it, it might not turn out the way your trainer wants you to. That's why.
Yeah.
So you're just going survival. You're just an 11-year-old kid trying to survive your life and just get to it. You know?
Yeah.
Everybody happy.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And instead of me getting upset and mad at you for not flexing your horse to the right, which is just going to make you do the aid in fear, it's not going to do the aid because of the understanding. It's going to be doing the aid in fear and for me to please me. Well, that's really not going to work because when you become 14 or 15 and want to rebel against me, now you're going to go fox hunting and not have a supple horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so you know,
right.
I mean, I'll say I'm not training you to mimic me or do what I tell you to do. I'm training you to be an independent thinker, to be my assistant trainer, not or to be the horse's leader. You know, like today, the good example, teenagers, little older, 16 years old, land off the gymnastics and they land and let the horse fall on the inside shoulder. And I said, I've asked you not to do that type of balance turn anywhere at any time in my arena. However, you continue to go through the gymnastics and lean and allow your horse to pull you over the shoulder and lean over the shoulder. I was like, so I'm not going to tell you anymore, but I'm going to set up an exercise that if you continue to do that, things are going to get ugly.
Yes.
And they'll just look at me. And now the ones that have been with me know it. So that same lesson will be an 8-year-old lesson. And I'll say, I have asked you to put down your heel. Miss Angela asked you to keep your heel down 3 times before I'll ask you to be dismissed. And they'll be like silent. And these aren't kids. These are kids that maybe have started at 4. They know how to put their heel down. And I'll say, you're being lazy. So I'm going to ask you once. But if I ask you 3 times, I'm just going to ask you to leave because maybe this is the day you need to go on a trail ride. And they'll just kind of look at me. And I'm like, and that has to be said in neutral and no emotion. Because you don't want to say it in any way, especially with girls, well, anybody, right? You don't want to say it in any way like with a tone of, you're stupid, what the hell?
Of course. Yeah, exactly.
You want, because that won't keep it fun. But so the expectation starts changing over the years and based on their age. A lot of kids get into horseback riding like 9 to 12-year-olds. And so they're kind of set in their learning ways. And you kind of have to find their learning way. And then once you find it, then you have to set the expectation and start requiring that expectation without it being scary. And it does help to have the kids.
Yeah, you're making a lot of sense. You're making a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
I put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is why.
Yeah, that's why, if I had kids, I'd be sending them to you.
Yeah, they're so good. Well, and I think, Angela, you said, which was particularly impactful, and we were talking about my niece, and that was, there's a big difference when mom or, you got to go, you got to ride the pony, you got to go home, you got to make dinner, you got to, it's easy to want to jump in there and help them, right? And partly you're just doing it because it's faster, right? But that's not, you know what I mean? You're like, I got stuff to do,
Oh, yeah.
Versus you go to Miss Angela's and they know, they're like, well, Miss Angela's just going to sit out there until I do it, and you said that. Like,
taking your mom and making her go around the barn.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you stay over there.
Yeah.
She's
like grandma, grandma,
like, but that's all you're doing.
Yeah. I don't think grandma helps. My mom, she didn't help us, but man, when it comes to my granddaughter, anyways, we never got help. But right. But that's the point, right? Is having someone that understands the development and what they can do and what they can't, and the time, and because that's what they're there for. And and I am a firm believer, I Phil, you were coached by your mom. I was coached a little bit by my mom. I don't coach my niece because I think it's hard. It's very hard to coach, your family member. So, but it's great when you go to Miss Angela.
Like, want them to get it.
Yeah.
You want them to get it,
Yeah. I didn't ever think of it that way because they don't learn independence, partly because it's easy. And it's the same for me. Sometimes even tacking up someone's horse, it's just sometimes just quicker if I do it, but then they don't learn. And so you have to step back and say, yeah, you tack them up. I'll meet you in there. I'm going to go get a coffee, but that's it for anyone, not just anyone that's learning.
Right.
So.
Right. And I mean, then you get to learn your horse and your horse, like Emma Ford has a little, I think it's a YouTube video. She's an upper level groom. Right. And if she did something special for us, specifically for our pony club. And on the video, she said, you guys need to spend time with your horse on the ground so you know where the spot is on his back that he likes to be scratched the most.
Yeah.
Where's the spot on your horse that he likes to be touched the most? And that made the kids go, oh, I'm like, yeah, does anybody know that?
Yeah, right? Right? I think that's good for anyone listening. I think anybody listening, I think that's a good thing to know. It's like, what do they like? What do they like? Yeah, what they don't like.
The other thing that I always remember when I'm teaching, because I'm a very goal-oriented person. I set crazy goals and I've had goal parties and it's kind of a little obsession, is that I have to remember that people learn in their time, not in my time. So like when I get a student, I challenge, like I get a 4-year-old, right? So I'm like known to have like the best 6-year-olds go around. And my 6-year-olds can tack up their ponies, they can lead their ponies, they get on by themselves. They're very independent. And hey, my 7-year-old, 6 or 7-year-old just won a perpetual trophy from the Mid-South Dressage and Eventing Association for dressage.
And she's so cute. Oh my gosh. She is like seriously is cute. But
she told me it was because she beat all the adults.
It's true.
I don't know how we won this trophy, but whatever. But they learn in their time. So I tend to challenge myself as an instructor. I think because I'm just a type A, that I'm like, oh, I got this kid. She seems athletic. I'm going to have her doing X, Y, and Z in 10 lessons. This is in my head, right? I'm thinking this. Well, and then all of a sudden I realized the kid is like an idiot. I mean, drawing a circle on the board and she's telling me it's a triangle. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You're athletic, but you're not very smart. And then I have to breathe and went, oh yeah, that's right. This isn't my time. This is your time. This is your time. About me.
You have to focus on geometry for a little bit. Yeah.
Starting with the geometry.
So now I have to go and teach you something that I think you really should know. But
and you're very good at that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was at Reese's and I had ridden with Conrad Schumacher and I sat with him. I'll never forget this. I sat with him while he was teaching, and he was teaching a lady who had traveled, I don't know, from another state to ride with him. And she had the look, man. She had all the stuff. She had the really nice horse and she looked fit and she just had the look, the whole look, right? And she had traveled with, she had taken many lessons from him. And, so here I was thinking that she was going to go very far in her hour lesson with Conrad, because my lesson with Conrad took me great places, and I remember he was teaching in German and English, I think, but I think she wrote mostly in German. And he kept repeating the same phrase. And then he looked at me and he just put up his hands and kind of rolled his eyes like, there's not much more I can
do. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is. He was like,
we're going to say this again and we're going to stay here in this, whatever it was, whatever we were doing. I think it was like the ringback or something. I don't know. And it wasn't a very fast movement. And he was just like, well, we'll do that again, or we'll do it this way. And then he looked at me and he just like shrugged his shoulders like, this is where we're at.
Well, and I think that's such a good way to think about learning and teaching. And even if you're an adult, right? Like sometimes it's just, you can't move forward, right? No matter what's going on. So I think that's so important to think about. And I love that, you're saying everyone learns in their own time. So I think that's
right, such a time, right?
Yeah. I think that's so good.
No matter what you buy your kid, right? You buy your kid the best horse in the world. If they still think a triangle is a circle, we're going to be working on that.
No, it's so true. It's so true. Well, Angela, we could keep you on the line forever. We always love it when you come and chat with us because you're just a wealth of knowledge. And I think everybody, even if you're starting your kiddos or even if you're starting into the sport, you can understand. So how can our listeners find you online if they have any more questions for you?
So we have, they can go on Facebook at Ariatti Equestrian Services. They can go on our website, ariattihorse.com. Yeah, that's where they can go.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Angela.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Well, tonight we are so happy to have back on the show Karen Isberg from Kentucky Performance Products. Karen, welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's so much fun to be back. I've missed you guys.
I know we
missed you
so much. There's lots of COVID issues, but I think we're all sort of learning how to deal with it, and we're just happy to have you back. And you have always such great topics, and we wanted to talk a little bit about sort of winter needs and caring for horses in the winter. So I'm just going to let you go with that.
Okay. Well, one of the things that's come up recently is some questions about when is it too cold to bathe your horse? Because a lot of people have questions about that. Can I bathe my horse in the winter? Should I wait till the summer? Some horses can get really dirty. And so I did a little bit of research, and there was some interesting work done on that they figured out that horses have what they call an average critical temperature, and below that point, they start to feel cold. So a horse that is clipped will start to feel cold below 40 degrees. And when a horse is very wet, if a horse gets wet, then their critical temperature drops 10 to 15 degrees below that. So if it's 50 degrees out and you get your horse wet, he's going to drop to 40 degrees and he's going to start to feel cold. So basically what the research was saying, that if the temperatures are below 50 to 55 degrees, you shouldn't wash your horse unless you're using certain precautions. Like, Reese, with us, before we went to Florida, the horses had grown quite a bit of winter coat, but we had to wash them so they could be clipped. And we don't clip them till a few weeks before they go to Florida. And so what we would do then was we would wash them under the heat lamp with warm water, and then right away we would cover them up with, some kind of a wool cooler, something that will wick the water away and keep them warm at the same time. And then they weren't returned back to their stalls or put in their blankets until they were completely dry. So that's an option if somebody has that kind of facility. So they could wash the horse in the winter, but it's really important to keep the horse warm. What do you guys do in Canada, Philip?
Well, we have, we're in Canada all winter, every winter. So yeah, basically, you have to have kind of a insulated barn. So, where I'm at, the barn stays kind of about 5 degrees, maybe 0. So, and then we have a whole heat lamp set up, and, lots of coolers and stuff. And so, the horses that we clip in kind of November. That's kind of the first clip, depending on the horse. Maybe it's only one time per winter, but a lot of them we have to do again. And just keep the hair short, and then lots of blanketing, and then. But if I have a horse that gets kind of sweaty, I just really don't like to just turn the hose. We have warm water and everything too, but I will sponge. Sponge the sweat off, really sweat scraper, and just try not to leave the horse with any water on them.
And if they have a long coat, you have to be even more careful because you have to wait. You have to make sure that coat gets completely dry.
Oh yeah.
Before you let them out or put them in their blankets or put them back in their stall. So I think it's just really important for people to take great care if they do have to bathe a horse in the winter. I like you try to stay away from that.
Yeah.
I might do legs if they need it, but I won't do anything.
And do legs and get them under the heat lamp. But Phil, what kind of clip do you normally do in Canada for the horses?
Well, we just do full body clip. Yeah. I mean, I've got one with a bit of a blanket clip, to try to keep the, we leave them with a saddle pad basically and top of the back. So the blanket would be just, top of the back, but the big places where they sweat would be, in the neck and around the neck. So, we just try to take off as much as possible. If we do it in November, they have a chance
dry,
to grow,
right?
Yeah, they have a chance to grow their hair back. So by the time, now we were just talking about it, that it's going to be -30 with the wind chill, this weekend. So, but if you clip in November, they have a chance to grow the hair back, kind of, get something on them by January, so that they're not completely really, really short. I don't like a really, really short clip, but we try to give them, whatever the horse needs. But some horses are just really hairy, and we got to take it all. We almost got to take it all. It just depends on the horse. And some we have bigger sweaters than others. That will sweat a lot. So each horse is a little bit individual in our decision about clipping. But yeah, it's got to be fun. Clipping is just functional. It's not just about looks, right? So.
Right, exactly. And it's you also have to pay attention. Like when you come to Florida, I'm a big, like Karen was saying, we always bathe them, we clip them, we bathe them again. So they're really, and we typically do it about 2 weeks before we head south, because I think in Florida, especially if horses haven't been here very much, you can get some skin fungus. Now, there's some people that believe in clipping in Florida. I've never had success with that. So that's how we do it. We do it at home, and it's just a little bit easier. So everybody, again, everybody's a little bit different, but you really have to pay attention to that. But we just had to clip a horse again the other day because he had grown quite a coat down here. So, it is, you have to pay attention to, just what's going on. But, truly the function of clipping is so that you can get to their skin and you can dry them or clean them. Like in my case, in Florida, it's too hot in a winter coat. But at home, if you're riding, you do need to have some level of clip so that you can, like Karen said, dry them and put them away. And it just takes a lot less time. Right, Karen?
Right. And I've got one horse in my barn that's completely clipped because he's ridden a lot. And of course, we have to really watch him and keep him blanketed. And then Oreo, I just keep a blanket on him to suppress his coat because he really doesn't grow much of a winter coat, believe it or not. And I don't work him as hard in the winter. And if he does sweat, I just throw a cooler on him until he's dry. And I can put him in my barn. My barn stays fairly warm. And of course, it's not as cold here as it is in Canada. So it's a little bit different. And then Leo, he's outside all the time where he is now. So he has just a trace clip. So they just clip down his neck, his chest, under his belly, all those places where he sweats, but they left the hair on the top of his neck and over his back. And that keeps him warmer when he's out in the evenings in this cold weather. So yeah, exactly. It depends on the horse and what you're doing with them as to whether or not, what kind of clip they need. And there's a lot of clips that are very functional. So
yeah,
there's a lot of
exactly.
options.
Yeah, there's lots of options, and you can kind of make your own.
Creative and just do your own. There's not like you have to look in a book. You're like, oh, okay. Identify the spots where the horse is, most likely to be sweating, and just do it. I mean, ours don't go out and show in the winter, so I mean, it doesn't have to be super pretty either. It just it's functional over anything. That's
right.
Because people look at clip jobs that I do, and they're just like, what did you do?
I can see that, Phil.
All over the place, and I'm just like,
that's the thing. If you were ever to look at,
guy.
Yeah, Philip's clips versus Reese's clips, that would probably define a lot about us, Phil.
But you're showing also all women.
Yeah, we're showing. But I just said that's just maybe a little bit about our personalities right there. Mine are like, Phil's are like, and we're both very successful, Phil, and I love you. Everybody would laugh. Like, that's just the difference. I just had to point that out. But
you could put pictures up and go, whose horse is this?
Yes, we will do that. I think we'll put that on the Facebook page. Like, whose horse is this? That's not fair. Mine are in Florida and they're showing, so it's not 100% fair. But Karen, another typical problem in the winter is the snow falling off the roof. So what are some suggestions you have for that?
Snow falling off the roof.
Besides moving to Florida.
Besides moving to Florida. You mean, and it falling off the roof and scaring your horse?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that everybody deals with, right? And horses get really anxious with that. So,
right. One of the big problems oftentimes in the winter is that because of the weather, either because of the snow or the ice, and usually it's ice because horses can go out a little bit more in snow, or if it gets too cold, horses don't get to go out as much. In some places they're out all the time, but in a lot of places they don't get to go out as much. And especially if it's a horse that you're trying to ride and work. And so maybe you have an indoor, maybe you're outside, and those horses can get pretty wound up because they're in all the time. So one thing that we talked about, Reese, we were talking about was, using a calming paste in situations like that to just kind of take the edge off your horse. And you use them down in Florida. And I've used them
because we get weather swings
when we first start showing horses. Yeah.
When the weather we get really big weather swings here where the horses, it's 80 one day and then 30 the next with winds like crazy. And especially their first season here, that can be challenging for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have a product. It's called Trouble Free. And it's basically, it's a next generation calming paste. So the key ingredient in this calming paste is alpha-lactalbumin, which is a whey protein that supports serotonin production. It maintains normal nerve function. So what it does, what makes this different from some of your old technology or magnesium and tryptophan-based calming pastes, is that it takes the edge off, but it doesn't have a sedative effect. So it doesn't make them dopey. It just makes them less anxious. And when they're less anxious, then, of course, they work better. Also, horses don't develop a tolerance to this like they do the older generation magnesium and tryptophan formulas. Lots of times those formulas worked because a horse had a deficiency. And once you got the deficiency regulated, then they would seem to stop working. And if you had a high-strung horse, then you would be right back to square one where you were. This horse was still high strung. But this product works differently. And you've used it and I use it and I'm sometimes my worst critic. But I've been really pleased with it. It really seems to just take the edge off and allows the horse to kind of take a breath and kind of take in what's going on around them and just not be so silly.
Yeah, for sure. And it's USCF legal, correct? Right now. I mean, it's USCF legal. Yeah, you can use it when going. You cannot use it at an international competition, but at a national competition, you can use it. I just always like to say that, just so everybody's clear with that.
Yes. And if anybody isn't, always check with whoever your governing body is. So if we've got any, Western riders or people that are in different disciplines, it's always good to check your governing body just to make sure that there's no ingredients in it that particular governing body may cause you a problem or a positive drug test. So
exactly. But for USDF, you can go to a competition, which is what I like about it. I want to use a product that you can go to a competition safely. So it's also a plus. But it really does help. And I do think it's important if you use it one day, maybe before your horse is anxious. But that is a tough time in the winter because consistency is an issue when you're at north. It's hard.
And it's cold. So. I mean, and horses have a little bit more energy when it's cold anyway. And like you say, there's things going on like snow falling off the roof or, there's always different things going on that might set them off. So if a horse has been in for a while and, you can always lunge them and things like that. But you may find that using a calming, we have this is in a paste and a powder. So you can use it in the paste as needed, and then you can use it every day if you want. And typically, we recommend that you give it 2 or 3 hours prior to whatever the event is that may make your horse anxious. And I find that if you give it to them the day before and then the day of, that I get a better result than if I just wait till the day of. So that seems to work.
I think that's good. No, I think that's fantastic. I love it.
It also kind of gives you an idea of how long it takes to work because it's a little bit different in each horse. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Karen, how is Oreo? Everybody who knows you. And listen, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know Karen and her horse Oreo. So just to check in, how is he?
Oreo is doing great. For the first few years of COVID, he basically became kind of a trail horse because I didn't have any place to ride on my property, and I was building an indoor arena, which is done. Hurrah! Yeah. So we did a lot of walking and trotting and cantering up and down hills, and it just was really good for both of us. It was good for our confidence. It was good for wonderful for my seat, and it was good for his little tushy. He got real fit. And recently, before it got real cold, I brought him back into the ring, and he was just fantastic. He had to have a little lesson about what forward meant again, because that's not his favorite thing.
Oh, bummer!
but after a week or so of yes, when we go into the arena, you have to go forward. You have to move off my leg. He remembered everything, and he's been great. He's just so much fun, and my seat is much better, and our canter work is just so much better, and he's my heart horse, what can I say?
I love it. I love it. Well, Karen, as always, I love when you come on and you have so many great resources. So how can people find you, all the good stuff?
Well, we have a really nice website, kppusa.com. And aside from information about all our products, we have a great area called Tips and Topics. And there's just tons and tons of articles in there about all kinds of interesting things. And if anybody has a topic that they want to learn more about, they can feel free to email us at info@kppusa.com, and we'll be happy to research it and write an article on it. So you can also find me on Facebook. You can find KPP on Facebook, and you can message me there. So we're around. We're also on Instagram. We're on Pinterest. We're on all of the social media sites.
All the
Twitter.
Things. I love it.
Doing all the things now.
I love it. Well, Karen, we're so glad you were able to come on tonight. Happy New Year. And we can't wait to keep getting updates and hearing how you and Oreo are doing.
Well, you guys have a great season in Florida. I'm so excited for you and your new horses. Yay. And
Me too.
Phil,
It's going to be fun.
try not to freeze to death.
Oh, Phil.
I'll be all right.
He's tough.
Thank you.
He's tough.
He is tough.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Well, Phil, as always, we like to tell everybody, again, always check your equipment. It's really important. But those stability stirrup leathers, they're the best thing. I really, really like them. We use them every day. And I was cleaning my tack, getting ready for the competition, and they look awesome. I've been riding hard, and I was like, they don't even look like I've been riding. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great products that come from Total Saddle Fit, but those stability stirrup levers, probably the best things. I've changed my life. So
yeah, me too. My leg position, 100%.
Yeah. So, go ahead and check them out. They've got lots of great products over at totalsaddlefit.com.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at totalsaddlefit.com.
So Phil, I was coaching a student, and I think she'll love it that we used it as a tip, because I told her I literally now, just because we do trainer tips, as I'm riding and somebody has a light bulb moment, I try to write it down. You have like a little note in my phone so that we can pull it up. And this happened actually 2 days ago. And it's my student. She's been very successful in intro, and we're working toward training level. And we were working on 20-meter circles and the roundness of the 20-meter circle. And she said, she rode, and she's like, she kind of came to a nice halt, and she said, I think I have something to tell you. And I said, oh, awesome. What? I was like, that was a really good circle. She's like, I think I found a key. And I said, oh, awesome. What is it? And she goes, if I ride my circles as 4 quarters, I can keep them rounder, and it's easier for me to think about the bend on my circle as not such a big, as one unit, but as 4 different units. And, I think I teach it that way. I teach go to the circle points, but it was really cool to see her and how she had that light bulb of, if I just take the quarter, it goes a lot better. So I thought that was a cool tip that I wanted to share. And I'm sure you have something to add.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome if you can break down any of the movements into smaller sections and just achieve one section at a time. People who think like, okay, especially the bigger circles, if you have, a 20-meter circle and you leave the track at A and have to return to A, that's a little overwhelming, right? I mean, you got to like think about the whole thing. But if you break it down into quarters, that helps a lot of people, So and geometry wise, you have to know where the 4 points of the circle is, and then maybe Reese, you can blow her mind. And, either I think it's helpful to set out pylons, but once you break it down into quarters, you can break it down further and break those quarters down in half. So it's more of an octagon. You have 8 points to think about. And then maybe that circle will get even
better. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Oh, we're
right?
doing that tomorrow.
Yeah. Because you should, that'll be like if you're trotting, that's approximately every third stride. And, for everyone that I'm teaching, you have to think about everything in terms of every third stride, because every third stride, you should be doing something, whether it's sending the horse a little bit more forward or giving a little bit more of a balancing half halt. Every 3 strides, there is something to do. Yes. So if you're riding around and there's, and you're just, those early tests, whether it's training level, first level, second level gets a little bit more complicated, but don't just be going around like point to point, like, okay, I've only got, I've got to get across the full diagonal. Even when you're riding that full diagonal in a 20 by 60 ring, do something every third stride so that you're used to, as you move up the levels, that, when stuff gets a little bit more complicated, you're already self-trained to be doing stuff every third stride. And then by the time you get to Grand Prix, it'll be easy, right?
Yeah, sure, Phil. It's super easy, Phil.
Just kidding. I mean,
but it's so
every
true.
other stride you're trying to do something, or every stride you're making
every stride.
Right?
Exactly. A great point, actually. I found in the Grand Prix, I think every stride is mapped out for me, but that's me and how I do it. I know exactly where I'm supposed to be, but the point is that should be the level of detail you have at whatever level you're showing, right? Is that you're constantly doing something, but in the Grand Prix, you have 4 strides to do something. In a training level, you may have a 20-meter circle and a long side. So it's easier to not think of it that way. But I love sort of every third stride, you need to be active. So I think that's a great total saddle fit tip of the week. Good job, Phil. I love it. And I think everybody,
good job
let us know.
Bringing us the light bulb moment, and then allowing us to kind of break it down even further to help people be more successful in the basic movement, because that's all, that's what it takes.
And we love it. So seriously, everybody, email, Facebook, shout us your light bulb moments, because if you're having them, we can send them out to a whole lot more people. And everybody has those moments where you're like, oh my gosh. And sometimes your trainer may be thinking, I've said that 1 million times. But for whatever reason, it sunk in.
Until it clicks, until it clicks, it's a struggle.
Exactly. So send us your light bulb moments. That would be super fun to hear what everybody's doing, and we can share them with everybody else. So I love it. So, but also just a quick reminder, we've got a great book club of the month going. It is Robert Dover's book, The Gates to Brilliance. It's been great. I've been reading it, Phil, in the evening. I'm not going to lie, I've been pretty tired. So I get through a couple pages and I maybe have woken up with it on my chest, but it's because I'm tired. But it's a great book. It's a great read. I've been really enjoying and hearing his story, because we all have a story, and how he became successful. And it's a really great book. So I would highly recommend it. The Gates to Brilliance by Robert Dover. And as always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably through Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we look forward to talking with you next week.